on the ground, echoes of the sound, ashes of the past on the present, and the future is now. They can't wait till another goes down. I am the path of destruction, and I'm here right now.
From the studios at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting in Charlotte, this is Adrian Brown with As the Buckle Turns. Yeah, I'm back again, y'all. I tell you, the Shackles episode 4, got some pretty interesting feedback on a few things. Therefore, that lets me know I'm saying some things that people are, interested in, and thought-provoking conversation will always be a good thing to me. And we all don't agree on everything, and you know what? That's cool. There's no need to curse people out who don't agree with everything you say. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for dialogue. I'm here for feedback. Heck, I'm even here for dissenting opinions. Like I said, within reason. That's something you'll constantly hear me say, because nobody really wants to be bombarded with nonsense. But I never want to shut down debate. I never want to shut people out. You'll never hear about me simply blocking you because you said something negative on social media or anything like that. So, trust me, when I practice what I preach here. If you want to engage me on something, go for it. That's what I'm here for. So, the landscape of wrestling, it was a pretty interesting week. Well, we got TNA headed into Slammiversary and things like that. And you also had the debut of season 4 of Lucha Underground. I think I'll get into that right now. I actually watched the episode, and it was pretty interesting. Typical Lucha Underground, they're continuing their storylines, and I really, really appreciate that. The cinematic feel that they have to their promos and things like that. It's a refreshing breath of air in this business to see them doing that. It doesn't really quite take great acting chops, but it's kind of real. It's kind of raw. It gives it that almost authentic feeling. Similar to what, even though it was somewhat supernatural, it's a similar way that TNA, Jeremy Borash, those guys, how they shot the deletions for the Broken Hardys back in when they were still in Impact Wrestling. And I think, honestly, the WWE tried to do their own little thing with the Wyatts at their compound with the New Day, which was refreshing to see the New Day out of their little comic book get-ups that they have. And I believe with Bray and Randy as well, with their little thing. I think the cinematic approach might be the way of the future after seeing how Impact Wrestling and Lucha Underground have done it. It might be the thing, because it gives it a sense of, we know a lot of people, they want this to be real. So why not just shoot the whole, not the entire thing like it's real, but give it some sort of realism. And I think that's what those vignettes in Lucha Underground do. Those deletions and the Great War and Impact Wrestling did, and the Wyatt compound and everything in the WWE have done. And I think that might be a good way to move along with things. It's refreshing. I think we can build off of something like that in this business. I don't expect the foreign promotions to go that way, because they cover everything in those promotions like everything's real already. So if you actually did try and comic book it up and cinematic it too much, I think they might not respond to it too well overseas. But here in America, I can actually see a situation like that working. It might be something everybody wants to invest in, just to really give a new take and a new spin on the entire business. But Lucha Underground Season 4 opened up, the funeral of Dario Cueto, the man who shot him actually beside Dario's father. I think his name's Antonio, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments or anything, folks. And okay, it's obvious. We know it's Dario and dressed up as an older man. We know it's him. Honestly, they probably should have put some padding on, made his father, in quotes, seem like he was a little more overweight, instead of just making it seriously look just like it's Dario dressed up as an old man. They probably could have taken it a little bit farther. but that's just nitpicking it a little bit. But, and, you know, and the big revelation in the opening scene is the fact that supposedly he ordered the hit on his own son, even though the man that shot him's right beside him. It's almost like maybe they got wind of the tip of the hit or something like that. He and the, I guess, the Supreme Overlord or whatever that he's working for, that Dario was supposed to have been preparing the gauntlet for. Like I said, they're trying to fill in the gaps with a lot of stuff right now. And because of the limited time they have for the seasonal promotion, I think it's starting to lag behind a little bit. People are, I mean, I know I am. Maybe I should probably speak for myself in here. And, you know, I hate when other people do that. So I'm going to speak for myself right here. It's dragging a little bit. You know, it's almost getting Walking Dead-like already in its 4th season. And I'd hate to see it actually fall. But they should probably start pushing the storyline along a little bit more. But they do give you those holy bleep moments, like when, you know, you find out Katrina and her mom are like thousands of years old and things like that. So, I don't know, it's a double-edged sword a little bit. So Antonio comes out there, interrupts his own son's funeral, kicks his, you know, photo down and everything after they're trying to give him a 10-bell salute and everything. Lets everybody know he actually invented Aztec warfare, and it's going to kick off the show. Pentagon's going to actually defend the title in it. And I think Pentagon comes out at number 5. And a lot of surprises. You know, usually a surprise or two. And of course, the biggest surprise was Tommy Dreamer. He came in the match, and honestly, the biggest thing about it was, you know, Killshot and the Mac were there, but Dante Fox wasn't. So he enters them at 1 and 2. They said number 3 would be their new partner since Dante Fox isn't there. I don't know if he's got an issue with wrestling overseas or something like that, but I don't know. Maybe it'll be the third man ended up being Son of Havoc. So those 3 are now your new trio champs. So maybe there's a story later on where Dante comes back and he and Son of Havoc fight, and maybe Dante wins and he rejoins his teammates as trios champs. Who knows? I mean, that's just speculation at the moment. But honestly, I predicted somewhere online that I believe Son of Havoc was going to be the one to take the title from Pentagon anyway, and Pentagon pinned him clean in this match. And, you know, I think when Pentagon entered at number 5, I think I said. And the weirdest thing that happened in the match to me was Phoenix being taken out by a simple suplex. I can't remember, but I just remember shaking my head. I was like, what the heck just happened? Anyway, but Pentagon eventually wins the entire match. All 20 people enter and everything, and he wins at the end. Antonio comes out and says, you'll face Matanza, that's his only son now, next week for the title. So the more things change, the more things stay the same, according to Matt Stryker. I thought that was funny because, again, Dario was, constantly trying to keep Matanza in the title picture. So Antonio's probably going to do the same thing. But anyway, Lucha Underground, it has its moments, and sometimes there are just too many topes and weird dives for my taste at times. I'm just like, but I can accept that a little bit because it's not constantly in your face more than once a week or things like that, and it's seasonal. But there are times they do get a little over the top with their wrestling. But anyway, so I can always count on one of my favorite, least favorite, a guy I used to follow on Twitter to provide me with some fodder when I can't really think about what I want to talk about. And one of the things the entire IWC, YWC meme culture and everything online was losing their crap about was the fact that Brock Lesnar reached 434 days as Universal Champion. What's so magical about that number? You may remember, well, a certain wrestler. Now, normally I wouldn't say his wrestling name because he quit. I said I wouldn't say his name anymore. But for the purpose of this podcast, I'm going to say the name CM Punk. Most of the time I call him by his real name. But for the sake of this, for the people that are listening, I'm going to say his name. CM Punk, that was the magic number. He was champion, WWE champion, for 434 days. That's the number he claims. That's the number that's in the books. That's the number one thing that defines him. 434. And the closer that Brock got to holding the Universal title for that long, you could see people losing their crap about it because their Messiah was about to be, quote, overtaken. Now, some people weren't too keen on the entire comparing the Universal title to the WWE title, but keep it real here as always, folks. They're props. That's all they are. I mean, no one's really ever won a championship in this business. These records, in quotes, are just, asterisks in life. No one's really held a title. Nobody's really defended a title. It's part of a show. This is sports entertainment. Professional wrestling is sports entertainment. That's all it is. Everything's embellished. Everything's over the top. Even things like WrestleMania attendance. Okay, we know a lot of times that the WWE embellishes things, but they do that for a reason. It's part of their business model. That's part of the business model of the wrestling business. Nothing really ever 100% legit a lot of times because you have to put some things over the top to keep people interested. And if people understood that a lot of times, they'd probably enjoy it a little bit more than they really claim they do. I mean, really think about that. So, yes, I know that the Universal title was created just for this brand split. It's not really, quote, part of the WWE title lineage, but at the moment, it's still a world title. It's still considered a world title just as much as the ROH title is, as much as the Impact Championship is, as much as the IWGP Heavyweight Championship is. It's a world title. It's still recognized as such, and it doesn't really matter that you don't consider it as part of the WWE title lineage just because your boy, one of your favorites, held that title for as long as he did. You don't want to compare it to that simply because of the fact it's on a guy who's not there that often. And the big meme out there, as always, has been this. Okay, CM Punk, 434 days. I believe it says, 141 title defenses? Yeah. But how many of those do you really remember? Keep it real. Let's be honest. 434 days for Brock and counting. 10 title defenses. Okay. Every single one of those I can remember, and they served a purpose. Okay. Yes. It sucks that he's not there week by week. Yeah, it does. But if you're just out there defending the title for no reason in matches that really don't matter, I mean, I can't remember anything about those 434 days for CM Punk. I can't remember a single great moment about the whole entire run is defined by the number. And once it was all over, the guy didn't know what to do with himself. He really didn't. And this is where the man makes the title doesn't make the man comes into play. Without that title, it's like he didn't know what to do with himself. It's like his whole entire identity, and even his fans, their whole entire identity with identifying with him is defined by 3 numbers, 434. Brock Lesnar is not defined by his title reign. He's defined by what he does when he shows up. I'm not the biggest fan of the guy. I'm on record as saying that. But even I know when the man shows up, it's instant impact. Whether you like him or not, you're going to stand up and take notice. You're going to count suplexes when he's suplexing people. You're going to pop when his pyro goes off. Every single thing. You're going to count to 3 on the last at 5 when you know it's over. Okay? When CM Punk's run was over, it's like he put no effort into anything because he was so defined by a belt. That title made him, which is why in general, the man was a failure. It meant nothing when The Rock beat him. It meant nothing. I mean, even when he got even a rematch, when you knew The Rock was going to win, it did nothing for The Rock. It was all just waiting for him to finally build up to finally facing a guy like John Cena. When he finally, so John could finally beat him for the title. See, The Rock did more for that title in losing than CM Punk ever did for holding it for 434 days. I mean, think about that. And a lot of people are also saying, well, why did Daniel Bryan get stripped of the title and Brock can't get stripped? I'm like, okay, there's no more kayfabe in this now, folks. We say that all the time. All the time. Because it doesn't matter how long Brock's contract is what it is. That is really truly why he is Vince's boy. That contract above all else shows who he values above all else, no matter how much you think a certain other guy is. Okay, he's allowed to do that because nobody really cares about kayfabing this anymore, because no matter how much you want this to be real, it's not. Okay, and let's take it back across seas. Let's go across the ocean to something else a lot of these same people will put over to the moon. Let's go to New Japan. Okay, Kazuchika Okada, record-setting IWGP Heavyweight Champion, 720 days as IWGP Heavyweight Champion, a belt held by some of the greats: Brock Lesnar, Tonio Inoki, Vader, Scott Norton, Bob Sapp, guys like that. Okay, this man held his belt for 720 days. Yeah, you know how many title defenses he had in all 720 days? 12. Yes, long pause intended. 12 in 720 days. And you're complaining that Brock's only defended this belt 10 times in 434? Yet New Japan's the greatest thing in the world. Okada's putting on now 7-star classics. Ooh, we done broke the entire scale, which means 5-star matches are now garbage now that have come before this. We'll get into that another time, but because that's going to be awesome. That's going to be real fun. And again, but you can put New Japan over to the moon, but yet their champions defend the title less than a guy that you don't like as much because that belt's sitting at home. Come on now. AJ Styles is defending the title constantly against another one of your favorites. I mean, honestly, why are you watching Raw anyway? Why? I mean, your guy's over there. Watch him defend that title. Anyway, that I can go on and on about that. But this is all entertainment. Like I said, there are no titles. Hyperbole and exaggeration are par for the course here. And once again, like I said, it was an interesting week. But a lot of that also stemmed from, okay, Punk's record got quote, broken, even for the modern era. But the previous couple days before that, last week at UFC 225, he lost for the second time in the octagon. Unanimous decision. The man got destroyed in a unanimous decision to this guy named Jackson. Listen, there was a time. There's a lot of crossover in MMA and pro wrestling now. The fans kind of sway back and forth a little bit, and with good reason. I mean, it's scripted combat and real combat, but when one part of the fan base gets tired of one, they'll migrate to the other, and there's a little bit of gray area that crossovers in between. I'm one of those people. I watch both, I study both, I respect both, and there was a time. There's always going to be those people that always wonder, especially before mixed martial arts became a thing, and you would wonder, how would X wrestler here fare in UFC? And you would see like a certain, even more charismatic, mixed martial arts personality. You're like, this guy's entertaining. It's quite possible he could be a good professional wrestler. He's such a good talker. I mean, his press conferences are awesome and things like that. And So there's always going to be a little bit of wondering. The mold got broken when Brock Lesnar who has a good pedigree, went to the UFC and actually won the heavyweight title. Two things in that case, though. Brock is a heavyweight, and he was also a NCAA heavyweight wrestling champion. So he had the pedigree for that. So he's a little bit of an outlier. There are certain people we would always wonder. Some people are also no-brainers. Kurt Angle, Olympic gold medalist wrestler. I mean, Kurt tops out at like 225 at his peak. So yeah, he's good at cutting weight. A wrestler. So 185, he could have been a middleweight champ, probably a dominant middleweight champ. I mean, like I say, he's a wrestler. So he may have been able to cut down to 170. He'd have been a huge welterweight. And then I would start thinking about certain other wrestlers who would be good UFC fighters. I mean, like I said, Kurt Angle, Ricky Steamboat, with his cardio and his physicality, quickness, he'd probably been a heck of MMA fighter. Shelton Benjamin, wrestling pedigree as well, probably a light heavyweight. Jack Swagger, another light heavyweight, wrestling pedigree. Braun Strowman, big time heavyweight, quick guy. He probably would have good hands. Talk about get these hands. I mean, he seems to have good footwork for such a big guy. And athletic guys like Billy Gunn, that guy, I mean, freak athlete. All he probably need was some tutelage. Taka Michinoku back in the day, smaller guy. I mean, probably in the mode of a Takanori Gomi type guy with the way he moves. Chad Gable, another Olympian, the way small. He'd probably be a small Randy Couture. He's bigger now, but if he were actually to train MMA, he'd probably lay off the whatever it is he's taking to make himself 200 pounds now. And probably the most gifted out of the Hart brothers. Owen Hart, I think, probably would have made a pretty good mixed martial artist. And I'm sincere about that one. And maybe Bad News Brown, if I want to go real far back. The guy was a judo bronze medalist, for goodness sake. So was Ronda Rousey. Think about that. So, and then of course you got your Chael Sonnens and your Conor McGregors, heck, in regular combat sports. Heck, even Floyd Mayweather tried his hand at professional wrestling. I mean, if you got the gift of gab, all you need is some good training under you. You're going to probably make a decent professional wrestler. But I bring that conversation up. I think after what happened to Punk, our whole entire mentality about that, I think it's been shattered. Because here's the thing. You could look at CM Punk and you could tell this guy was probably just an overachieving average guy. I mean, look at he was probably the kid, the weird kid in school who was the outlier. Who basically divorced his own family. He probably listened to the weird music. He probably had some weird habits. He was that awkward kid that even the guys probably didn't even want to bully because he's probably the most likely to shoot up the school type kid. But you can also tell he was probably, you look at the guy, even just the way he was moving in the wrestling ring. I just looked at him. I'm just like, he's not really that athletically gifted. He's not really naturally talented. I think his lifestyle enabled him to craft his promos so well that they came off as believable as they did. Like I said, you will never hear me say the dude cannot cut a heck of a promo. That's the one thing he could do. If you gave him a microphone and left him to his own devices, he can knock it out the park. But the thing about him is this. He's not naturally gifted. He's not naturally talented. He did a lot of overcompensating with, even down to stealing another guy's finisher, even though the guy gave him his blessing. I mean, in general, like I said, he shattered everything that I believed about a pro wrestler being tough and being able to hold his own. Okay, he did survive all 3 rounds in his last fight, but he looked horrible doing it. He gave nothing back to the guy. He took all the shots and gave absolutely nothing. He gave absolutely nothing. It was pathetic. And I look at that, it was so hard for me. I'm just like, I'm watching all these other guys I grew up watching, these tough guys, guys like Vader and people like that. I'm just like, who probably at minimum in the old school UFC probably would at least gave you something when that cage closed. But this guy, this average Joe, this king of vanilla, this guy who only just became a wrestler because he loved it, and then never really had any legit training until he was like later in the game. And I can honestly say that the guy probably got as much out of himself as he was physically able to, but you can tell the guy was such a try-hard that it didn't really translate. Like, I respect Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman saw something in the guy, and I can respect that. But at the same time, I would never really respected it enough for him to reach the level that he did. More props to him for being able to do that. I know he wanted the WrestleMania main event, but it just wasn't meant to be. And to watch him after what Brock Lesnar did, after what Lashley's done, after even Batista, he tried his hand in mixed martial arts. And but these guys are huge men, large, chiseled freaks of nature. But I always thought, this goes back to my childhood again. When I thought of professional wrestlers, I would always thought they were much tougher than what a lot of people gave them credit for. And then I watched this guy step in this cage and see what's happened to him in both fights. I'm absolutely disappointed. It's absolutely, discouraging to watch this man continue to kill this business and to kill the credibility of the very people he wrestled with. And, and he probably said he quit for them and things like that. But I don't know. It just bothers me after seeing that. I don't know. How can sports entertainment, how can any of these guys legit try and go over and attempt this now if they really wanted to like retire from wrestling early and try their hand at actual combat? What's to say any of these other organizations, UFC, Bellator, or whatnot, will even take a chance on them anymore? What's to say any of these gyms will probably just take these guys' money just to train them? Sure, but what's to say that any of these other promotions are even going to spend money on them now after seeing what's happening, especially a guy of CM Punk's stature? I just don't see it happening now, because in a way, maybe he's ruined the business for these guys all over again. It's bad enough his whining and complaining started the sinking of these ratings as they are right now. But what's he doing? What's he going to do for these guys that want to try and take on mixed martial arts now? It doesn't seem like it's going to recover now. I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about lately after I watched that fight. And it really disturbs me. I sat there, I would always be, my favorite wrestlers would be like, nobody can beat these guys in a fight. Look how bad, even though it's scripted. The idea is some of these guys were legit, Haku, Ron Simmons, JBL when he wasn't being an idiot at times, Bart Gunn, when he was knocking people out in the brawl for, you would see Dr. Death Steve Williams, guys like that. You'd believe Ron and Don Harris, the Harris brothers, those guys. You would believe that, but I don't know now. I said Brock was an outlier. And it's ironic I ended up comparing Brock and CM Punk twice in one podcast. I know maybe that was semi by design, but who knows? And the two guys are friends, but if I'm Brock, I'm telling him, I'm just like, dude, you just ain't got it. Go home, enjoy your millions. You already done won a court case. Go enjoy your pretty little wife. And if you're not coming back to wrestling, just, live in your basement and go to Cubs games. Because right now, I mean, he's not coming back to wrestling, far as I know. And his UFC and MMA career is over. I give the guy credit for trying, but I don't know. It's just another thing that's just shown he's a failure. I will always give a man props for trying. I mean, I know I wouldn't want to go in there willingly get pumped in the face like that, just to test myself. I mean, especially not at that age. But you got to know your limits. Like I said, you can tell he was never really a great athlete. He probably never played sports at a high level. So what made you think you could compete with guys who've been doing this their entire lives? Or at least the guy he just lost to, it was just a hobby for him. It was a weekend thing for him, if I'm not mistaken. And you can't even beat a guy like that. That's what I'm saying. Not everybody has that talent. Sometimes it does take a natural acumen for certain things. And true combat, as you can see now after watching that, that's one of them as well. I'm sorry, Phil, but it's over. And in the end, I guess we all got punked. Thanks everybody for listening. Hopefully I didn't go on too long for you, but anyway, send me some tweets. Like I said, as always, give me some feedback. Let me know what you want to talk about. Till then, I'll see you next time. This is Adrian Brown, and this is As the Buckle Turns.